Good afternoon. Welcome to the 2021 Harvard Medical School Diversity Awards virtual ceremony. I'm George Daly, the Dean of HMS, and I'm delighted to see all of you. We're here to honor the remarkable individuals who are the recipients of this year's HMS Diversity Awards. This group is truly inspiring. Not only have they brought meaningful change to the HMS community through their work and their commitment, they've also shown us how diversity and inclusion enriches all our lives. Indeed, advancing equity, diversity, and inclusion is critical, and Harvard Medical School remains steadfast in its commitment to this work. Thanks to the dedication and efforts of many in this virtual room, we've made significant strides, but there's much more work to be done. Progress is not just a matter of achieving fairness, but of ensuring that we achieve inclusive excellence. That is, excellence in education, excellence in patient care, and excellence in research. As we honor our colleagues today, I ask each of you to consider how you can be a part of Harvard Medical School's work to cultivate an inclusive and collaborative environment, and to create new avenues for discussion that advance our shared mission to improve health and well-being for all. It's now my pleasure to turn the program over to Dr. Joan Reed, our Dean for Diversity and Community Partnership at Harvard Medical School. Thank you all again for joining us today, and my sincere thanks and congratulations to all the award recipients.
Thank you, Dean Daly, for your welcome and for allowing me to be part of an institution that not only realizes the value and importance of diversity and inclusion, but acknowledges those individuals who have been willing to lead us in recognizing and valuing all, especially during this challenging time when so many are impacted by the COVID pandemic and what has been going on across our nation. We're here today to celebrate the 2021 Harold Amos Faculty Diversity Award and the Sharon P. Claiborne Staff Diversity Award. A little bit about both of them. Dr. Harold Amos was the Maud and Lillian Presley Professor of Microbiology and Molecular Genetics at Harvard Medical School. He joined the faculty as an instructor in 1954 and became the first African-American department chairman in 1968. He was also the first African-American individual to earn a doctoral degree from the HMS Division of Medical Sciences in 1952. But beyond these duties, Dr. Amos worked tirelessly to support individuals from disadvantaged backgrounds who were committed to developing careers in academic medicine. Not only did he encourage these individuals, he was also known for wielding his influence so that universities would accept these individuals into their academic programs. And now a short video about Dr. Amos.
You know, he was such a humble man. He never would talk about me as the first African-American who did my PhD here, who served as faculty member, who was chair of a department. Never.
Full scholarship to Springfield College in the mid-1930s, unique in its own right, in the service, returned here to get his PhD in the medical sciences, and then established his own prominent track record in research, but always cultivating students, cultivating young faculty behind himself.
And he was very much somebody who wanted to be proactive about the opportunity that was offered to other people in minorities, very much so.
It was really the medical people who were very strongly opposed to bringing in the African-American students to the medical school, with the argument being that we were going to bring people who were not qualified to the medical school.
And I remember there was a very serious debate. Some people were very upset or tried to water it down. And Harold stood up and very gently responded very differently, and that sort of turned well, to some extent, turned the tide in the discussions.
He was the most wonderful gentleman, civilized human being that had a great heart, and his heart was in the right place.
he was in so many ways, and another extraordinary personages within the history of Harvard medicine, a professor's professor, somebody who was also kind, committed, a researcher, an insightful individual, forever looking out for students. So all of his extraordinary life, he was called a jewel in this world.
It's very important that whoever gives the award makes sure that the recipient knows who Harold was. He was a great human, and you can be absolutely honored by the fact that this great human is the name of the award that you receive. And I would hope that you can, regardless of who you are, you can try to emulate that humanity.
And now, Ms. Sharon Claiborne, who began working in the medical school's financial aid office in 1981 as a staff assistant. Over the years, she received many awards for her untiring attention to students. And in fact, the school's class of 1999 presented her with an award in recognition of tireless dedication to the students of Harvard Medical School. Ms. Claiborne received a 1998 YMCA Black Achievers Recognition Award for her commitment to service on behalf of young people and to help motivate and prepare them to pursue their educational and career goals. And in addition, she received the first annual Dean's Community Service Award at Harvard Medical School for her work producing Good News, a 2-hour gospel program on the MIT radio station WMBR 88.1. And now I have this special pleasure to introduce our guest today, Dr. Sherry Ann Charleston, who is the first Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer at Harvard University. Dr. Charleston is a historian trained in U.S. history with a focus on race, women, gender, citizenship, and the law, and an attorney with a specialization in constitutional and employment law. Most recently, she served as the Assistant Vice Provost for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion and Chief Affirmative Action Officer at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. As an academician and administrator, she has expertise in affirmative action, Title IX, and Americans with Disability Act enforcement and compliance. Her focus is on translating diversity and inclusion research into practice for students, staff, researchers, postdoctoral fellows, and faculty of color. Dr. Charleston received a BA from Columbia University in History and African American Studies, a master's and doctorate in history from the University of Michigan, and a JD from the University of Wisconsin Law School. She's one of the nation's leading experts in diversity and higher education. And with that, Dr. Charleston.
Thank you so much, Dr. Reed. It's just a pleasure to be here. You know, I would be remiss if I did not say this. I am always just privileged when I get to be in Dean Reed's presence. She has, you know, been a guiding light to me as I have made my way and acclimated to this university, and is someone who I draw great encouragement and inspiration from. And so I just know that she is just such a valued asset here at the Harvard Medical School. And I'm just honestly honored that that she would invite me to be here with you all today. You know, to the recipients of the awards, I am just thrilled to be in your presence. It's really an honor and a privilege to be here and to learn more about some of the wonderful work that you all have been doing as faculty and staff. You know, I will say, you know, one of the questions, I was giving a talk maybe last week, and one of the questions that someone asked me, she said, you know, I am fairly new to doing work relative to diversity, inclusion, and belonging. And sometimes it's overwhelming. I'm really tired, and I think about giving up. You know, sometimes it just feels as if the problem is just too great and the things that we're trying to achieve are just too monumental. And so she asked me, so how do you maintain your energy and your zeal and your desire to keep going? And I said to the group, tell me what the alternative is. What's the alternative to continuing to create a more inclusive environment and where all of us feel like we belong? What's the alternative? And it's easy to say that, that maybe we would get tired if we think about this as work that we do for others. But in reality, we all benefit. We all reap a dividend when we create an environment where we all can thrive. And you know, I had an opportunity recently to, some of you may have seen this, we had a conversation over at the Kennedy School with Heather McGee as part of our democracy series, Making Democracy Work, around on her book, The Sum of Us. And one of the things that came out of that discussion is the benefits that we all reap by creating a more diverse and inclusive environment. We have better decision making. We have more inclusive decision making. Generally speaking, you know, we are better served on a variety of different axes, from the environment to healthcare. And, you know, really, the question then remains, how can we not continue to press on? That being said, there are some of us who take the extra burden upon our shoulders, sometimes in really large ways and oftentimes in really small ways, but in ways that are noticeable or sometimes invisible nonetheless. And to really put a fine point on it, when she asked me, when the person asked me, well, how do you keep going? I said, well, even on those days when I feel like the work is monumental, I recognize that this is not something that I shoulder or carry on my own, but I have partners like yourselves who are so committed and passionate about this work. And so when I say that I am both gratified and humbled to be in your presence, that is not an overstatement of the reality of it, because we will not be able to change course at this university. We will not be able to reap the rewards of a diverse and inclusive environment without all of us carrying a little bit of water up the hill. And so thank you all for all of the things that you do on the daily, the things that are invisible, sometimes the things that you do brilliantly, invisibly, through your scholarship, your teaching, and occasionally those times when you, with gentleness, or, you know, for those of us who grew up, you know, in the Black church tradition, we would say, you know, sometimes when you want to lay hands on people or a situation or whatever the case may be, and you do not do that because sometimes we just want to shake people to reality to remind them that this is a problem. For all the care that you use with your colleagues and with yourselves and with your students and with our students, I just thank you for that work, because it makes our shared work so much easier and going so much faster. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I will, you know, just say a couple of things about the work that we are trying to accomplish here at the university. Some of you have heard me say before that you know, I've been here for about 8 or 9 months now. I'm losing count. I have COVID brain a little bit. This morning I showed up for an appointment at 7:30. That's not till tomorrow. So, you know, it's just, this is where we're at. This is just where we're at this juncture. So 8-9 months, somewhere in that vein. But in my first 4 months here, I met with about 2,500 people. And through a series of one-on-one and group conversations, I kept asking people the same question. Tell me what I need to know about Harvard and what it is that we should be focusing our efforts on. And there were 4 main buckets out of that over 500 hours of conversation that we saw emerge as themes. The first was, we have a lot of great things happening at Harvard, but we really need to think about coordinating our efforts in a way that allows us to measure our progress. So there was a clear call for leadership relative to diversity, inclusion, and belonging. And not just leadership from the top, not just a me, right, but a you, right? People who are going to coordinate their efforts so that we can think about how we move from initiatives to strategies, and we can bring our best thinking to the table to think about how we leverage our respective successes. The second is diversity. We need to continue to make sure that we're actually achieving representative demographic diversity relative to our students, faculty, staff, and postdocs. That's something that we've made progress in unevenly across campus, but something that we should be thinking about how we can continue to leverage together. The third thing was, we need to create a space. We need to create inclusive and safe working, learning, living environments. And how do we do that? We do that oftentimes by changing the behaviors that each of us have, right? Some of those things that contribute to making some of our working and learning and living environments not so safe. Another reason why I'm so grateful to you all for all the work that you've been doing, because this is contributory to some of the work that we need to do in that area. The fourth thing was a focus on cultural change. There are so many things about our wonderful culture here at Harvard that I think we want to preserve and hold on to. There are things about our culture that may lie beneath the surface that we need to investigate and think a little bit more closely about, that may be contributing to not having as inclusive and diverse an environment as we would like to, because we often lose our most valuable asset, which is our human capital, which is our colleagues. And so how can we address this? So we are thinking, and we've been working in partnership with the schools, people like Dean Reed, to help us think about what it looks like to set up a process where we're starting to think about how we can point our arrows in the same direction. The example I always give, because I'm an animal lover, is, do we want to be a wolf pack or do we want to be cheetahs? Right now, cheetahs are awesome, right? They move really fast. They can actually take down prey equal to their size, about 100 pounds. They can track animals at some distance, but they work in very short, aggressive spurts. Very, 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 very quick animals, but wolves work in a pack. They can track prey 3 times their size, oftentimes by wearing them down over long periods of time and then pouncing on them collectively, doing so in a strategic way that allows them to take down prey that are much bigger than them. So the question I always ask us in a nutshell is, can we commit to being a wolf pack, or do we just want to be cheetahs? And I think you all are examples of the ways in which we can achieve so much more together when we work together in a distributed fashion. And so thank you for your partnership. Thank you for your work in helping us to create the living, working, and living environment that we know that Harvard can be, which is a place where all of us can thrive. So thank you, Dean Reed. Congratulations to the recipients of both the faculty and staff awards. I am thrilled to see acknowledgement of both our faculty and staff in one place. And again, it's just an honor to be in your presence, and I look forward to seeing the rest of the program.
I want to say thank you. Thank you, Dr. Charleston. Harvard is lucky to have the right person at the right time at the helm. So I thank you for your leadership. I thank you for your sense of direction and your inspiration. It's wonderful to have you as a colleague and as a leader in this work that we're doing together. So again, and thank you for your words today.
Thank you.
It's now my honor to introduce and present the 2021 Diversity Award recipients. These awards were established to recognize faculty and staff from Harvard Medical School and Harvard School of Dental Medicine who have made significant achievements in moving Harvard towards being a diverse and inclusive community. An advisory committee with representatives from across our medical and dental school communities carefully reviewed and discussed each nomination and unanimously recommended the following individuals for this year's awards. We're going to start with the Lifetime Award, and it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Susan Churchill, instructor in medicine at Brigham and Women's Hospital, as a recipient of the Lifetime Achievement Diversity Award. Today, we honor her for her career, a career that reflects a true commitment to promoting a culture of diversity and inclusion in academic medicine. One of the many initiatives that Dr. Churchill started was a summer program called the Summer Institute in Biomedical Informatics. For the past 15 years, she's not only recruited impressive candidates from groups underrepresented in medicine and hailing from across the country, but she's also continued to support these young students after the program when they return to their institutions. And these students in turn have served as ambassadors for the Summer Institute. In addition to the Summer Institute, Dr. Churchill also has worked to increase inclusion in the admission process for the Bioinformatics and Integrative Genomics graduate program. She's a champion of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and has sustained for many, many years her commitment to promote diversity across every level of the academic pyramid. Dr. Susan Churchill, congratulations.
That would mean I unmute. Joan, thank you so much for the wonderful introduction. And as I just shared with you privately on chat, this minute of being able to share with you the giants that influenced my activities in this area, and in the spirit of why we pass this on, why we care, of giving forward. It's really, I need to acknowledge the giants that played such a significant role in my evolution 4+ decades here at the medical school. And I want to go back and start with a name that is familiar to you, and that is Harold Amos, with whom I had the pleasure to work, and his comrade in arms, Cliff Barger, who is the namesake for the mentoring awards that many of you in our community have received. And the two of them were peas in a pod in terms of their devotion to diversity and inclusion at a time when, yes, there were still ripples from the 60s and the notion of social and racial justice was penetrant. It was still an institution of old white men. And to have, as my postdoctoral mentor, Cliff Barger, in a stew of a laboratory that was as diverse and ethnically variable as you could possibly imagine, and the friends and colleagues that happened through that really and truly put me on my way to emulate the principles that both Cliff and Harold had espoused at that point in time. My friend Dan Fetterman, who was almost singularly responsible for gender equity in the Harvard Medical School class, as well as racial diversity at a time when other institutions were still struggling with it. And I'm very proud to say we have sustained that advantage, was a powerful one. Carola Eisenberg, for whom I was able to serve as a peer leader in first-year medical groups, where she was herself looking both to increase diversity and inclusion across the board. And in that experience, I had just amazing opportunities to work with students. And that has also been something, as Joan alluded to, that has really shaped my universe coming forward. I taught physiology for 13 years to the first-year medical students. I You've heard about the graduate program, in addition, the 6 years as a peer leader. And those interactions with our students from the Rainbow Coalition, from across the color spectrum, from every imaginable walk in life, really shaped my understanding of what was needed, what we needed to do to be all-inclusive as we move forward. And those individuals that I've cited were giants in their field at the time. We have lost them all. But I have to say, their legacy lives on, and I am only too proud, to the extent that I have been able to implement that going forward, to be part of that. And if we look even today, my colleagues in the MAP and DAP programs across Boston and across Harvard, when Francis Collins, as an agent of NHGRI, insisted that all of the big U's and P's have a diversity component, we in Boston got together and we decided what we wanted to do about that. It was just a wonderful, wonderful time to have colleagues that shared our perspective in this. And I'd like to a shout out to my colleague Karen Burns-White for her effort at the Farber in particular, was something I'm going to end my remarks on, remains very, very important. I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge my friend, mentor, and boss, Zach Kohane, who has allowed me the many years of my summer program and my activities in promoting diversity across the board. He now himself is about to become an adjunct professor at Morehouse. And so I can say that I have kind of passed that baton on that came down through the folks whose names you recognize. And Zach has himself, as it were, got religion. I also would like to do a big shout out to BSAG, my colleagues in the Basic Science Administrators Department, who individually and collectively have made amazing progress in programs they have created in their departments and across the departments to move this forward, including the faculty search that we just did. They are marvelous and unrecognized, and to the extent that I could share this acknowledgement, I would like them to be amongst those who have worked as hard as I have in all of these regards. And then lastly, I want to call out my personal passion for the last 10 years or so that was occasioned by an observation that we were all fishing in the same lake for candidates of quality to fill academic positions. And this was, yes. Am I echoing myself? This was corresponding not with the efforts we were all doing with undergraduates and summer programs and trying to reach out, but there was a growing awareness that we were completely missing the boat. And where we were failing to act and put pressure on was in the lower years, the high school years, where our kids were missing out on an appreciation of their ability to exceed in the STEM fields, of the power they had to succeed. And so for me, this is the challenge I give to everybody now. And I would like to cite as an example of what has happened is the HPrep program at Harvard Medical School, which was organized, is funded by, and run by our graduate and medical students who today bring on board from the Boston high school systems students for a year-long experience of immersion in science. We're looking at a summer program now, but this is where we should all be looking at. And I challenge everybody that's listening to take a student, a diverse student into your lab or into your life and try to shape them and let them see what is possible for them. And this is where I think we really need to be pushing, is that our supply chain, as it were, is broken, and we are missing incredible opportunities for these kids in the younger years. So let's, to the extent possible, agree it's a priority. We all need to bear down harder on it. And with that, we'll close. And I thank you all so much for listening and for your vote of confidence in what we do together.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Susan. And congratulations on your lifetime award. 40 years is a long time at Harvard Medical School. The first recipient of the Harold Amos Faculty Diversity Award is Dr. Fidencio Saldana, Assistant Professor of Medicine at Brigham and Women's Hospital. His abiding commitment to diversity in medicine is remarkable. As the first Mexican-American Dean of Students at Harvard Medical School, Dr. Saldana has promoted an inclusive culture throughout the medical school, making both students and faculty feel accepted. He's not only involved in recruiting a diverse student body, but he consistently makes sure that students are nurtured, their success is fostered, and they are supported once they arrive at Harvard. Most recently, he's been the co-chair for the Program in Medical Education Task Force on Anti-Racism. This task force has included roughly 150 students, faculty, staff, and has been charged with reviewing and analyzing policies and programs across PME, Program in Medical Education, to offer concrete recommendations and solutions to address issues of racism. Dr. Saldana, congratulations.
Thanks very much, Dean Reed. Thanks to the selection committee and to the individuals that nominated me who felt that I would be deserving of such an award. This award is particularly special for me as it really represents the reason I became a physician. I'm the son of Mexican immigrants who came to the US in search of a better life. And I thank my parents for instilling in me the values of hard work, generosity, and leaving the world a better place than you found it, as this inspired me to be a physician, with the dream of one day being able to take care of people like my parents, those that may not be most advantaged in our society or healthcare system. Never did I imagine that I would be able to do so at a place like Harvard. And thanks to Alvin Poussant, who took me aside during my first year at HMS and made me believe that I could succeed here at HMS. I was lucky enough to, years later, learn from Dr. Poussant, working with him side by side in the Office of Recruitment and Multicultural Affairs at Harvard. Issues of diversity, inclusion, and racial and social justice permeate our family. My wife, Anna, works tirelessly for our community as an elementary superintendent, advocating for the most vulnerable in Boston public schools. My kids, Mateo, Joaquin, and Emilia, have somehow picked up a social consciousness that I never had at their age. It is with pride that I dedicate this award to all of them for doing this work with me at such an important time in our world. Thank you to my mentors, to Ed Hunter, who's put his faith in me and allowed me to grow, to all my colleagues here at HMS, with a special nod to Rosa and Barbara, who watched me grow over the years in this work, and of course to Denise Brown, who ensures that I can do everything that I need to do for our students and faculty. I would personally like to thank all of you if I had more than 1 minute, but I realize it is not that much time. But most importantly, thank you to my patients and to all the students that I call my students that have allowed me to be part of their lives. Thank you again.
Congratulations, Dr. Saldana. Our next Harold Amos Award recipient is Dr. Dennis Spencer, instructor in pediatrics at Boston Children's Hospital. Dr. Spencer has been an extraordinary leader in promoting diversity and inclusion best practices in multiple settings within the Longwood medical area. He established and co-led the Boston Children's Hospital's GI Division Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Task Force that not only initiated broad changes in the culture within the division, but through his leadership, was asked to join the Boston Children's Hospital enterprise-wide EDI efforts. Dr. Spencer has also developed an implicit bias training for Boston Children's Hospital. As a first-generation physician, he's participated in the First Generation Journeys project to contribute to efforts that will position HMS as the inclusive institution that supports and cultivates all talent, irrespective of family background in medicine. He is also co-lead for the HMS Community of Black Men in Medicine initiative that seeks to create a sense of community and local network among African-American male medical students and physicians at HMS and our affiliated hospitals. Dr. Spencer personally attends the national medical conferences annually to recruit residents from diverse backgrounds, as well as attends the diversity dinners where he meets with diverse candidates to discuss training in Boston and Boston Children's Hospital. Dr. Dennis Spencer, congratulations.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Reed and the Amos Selection Committee for this recognition and this honor. So I'm so thankful to my family for their continued love and support, especially my parents for providing me an example of servant leadership, being kind to others. and commitment to community service. It's also amazing to see, I see one of my sisters here, some of my aunts, you know, and my non-Harvard friends who've taken time out of their day to join on today's call in this celebration. I'd like to thank the Boston Children's Division of Gastroenterology, especially my scientific mentor, Beth, for just supporting me as a physician scientist. To my nominators, my division chief, Scott, and my friend and colleague, Jose. I'm still humbled by you guys for thinking of me for this. And then, of course, for the selection committee for granting me this affirmation of the work that I am and will continue to do for the Harvard community and for our community outside of these halls. Again, I've been certainly welcomed as a junior faculty member within the Harvard network. The connections I've made are going to hopefully be lifelong ones, but the lifelong mission that I've had to trying to make sure that we have an equitable work environment for diverse individuals like myself and for the next generation is certainly something that I also, as Dr. Churchill, commit to others for you to do your parts as well. You know, it's important for all of us to work to safeguard this working and learning environment. So thank you guys for your support of me, and I look forward to continue this effort here and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, congratulations, Dr. Spencer. Our next Harold Amos Award recipient is Dr. Valerie Stone, Professor of Medicine at Brigham and Women's Hospital. Dr. Stone has dedicated her career to promoting inclusion, equity, and retention at multiple levels. For example, she is the founder of the Underrepresented Medicine Subspecialty Recruitment Reception at Brigham and Women's Hospital. And through this effort, a record number of underrepresented medicine fellows were matched successfully to Brigham. Dr. Stone has also founded the Brigham Department of Medicine Diversity Council, and through this council was able to impact culture change in the department. She's also been involved in the new Black Men in Medicine Recruitment Initiative and has recently developed a racial justice training for faculty, residents, and fellows in the Department of Medicine at Brigham and Women's Hospital. Dr. Stone's long career, which has included leadership roles in Massachusetts General Hospital and Mount Auburn Hospital, and now as the Vice Chair for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at Brigham and Women's Hospital, demonstrates sustained commitment to diversity and inclusion. Dr. Valerie Stone, congratulations.
Yes, thank you so much, Joan, for this wonderful recognition. I'm so incredibly honored to receive this award named after Dr. Harold Amos. I was privileged to get to know Dr. Amos when I first arrived at HMS for my fellowship in 1988. His commitment to teaching and commitment to diversity and commitment to excellence really inspired me, and he is one of my most treasured role models. I also wanted to appreciate you, Dr. Reed, Dean Reed, and also Dean Daly for creating these awards to celebrate accomplishments in this important domain. It really is, it makes us understand the value of diversity to the medical school to see that those of us who are making an impact in this domain are recognized. So I want to thank you for recognizing me for the work we're doing at the Brigham and Women's Hospital in the Department of Medicine. But needless to say, I did not do this work alone. I so appreciate the support of my chairman, Dr. Joseph Lascauzo, who really supported me by selecting me for this role and for the ongoing support, both in terms of mentorship and financial support, and also commitment to this work, is that his support has been completely invaluable and so wonderful. But also the partnership of our division chiefs, our vice chairs, our faculty, and most importantly, our residents has made all the difference. Mentors have clearly made a tremendous difference for me, and my most important and most early was my mother, who was an amazing educator in the inner city schools in Newark, New Jersey, and really taught me the value of really supporting disadvantaged minority students to achieve all that they could. and to the importance of moving the needle on diversity in every way and in every field, including STEM. I also am incredibly honored to have the support of my wife, Dr. Catherine Hall, who is a great mentor and a great coach, and the support of my family. So I want to say that I'm honored to be recognized for our work in moving the needle on diversity at the Brigham in our department. And in fact, as Joan said, we've made amazing strides this year. When the new academic year begins, we'll have more than 100 underrepresented minority faculty for the first time in our department. We matched 20% underrepresented fellows in our department and 30% underrepresented residents to our residency this year. I think we are all amazed of what we could accomplish together when we all worked together and when we had support from the top. But I'm particularly appreciative of getting this award this year because this was such a challenging year in so many ways, because of COVID, because of the way we saw racism manifest once again in our country. And what we decided to do was to combine our work on diversity and inclusion with really important work on racial justice and anti-racism so that we could change the culture and not just increase the representation and the numbers and the proportions of minority individuals, but change the culture and the environment so they were more likely to thrive, more likely to feel valued, and more likely to feel included and welcomed. So I really am so very honored to be recognized in a year that we did that work, because I think it's really going to make all the difference in our department in the years to come. So thank you all once again.
Thank you, Dr. Stone. Our next award is for the Department of Surgery at Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center, and the program leaders are Dr. Sidhu Gangadharan, an Associate Professor of Surgery, and Dr. Anne Fabrizio, an instructor in surgery. In 2018, the BIDMC Department of Surgery established a Committee on Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, chaired by Drs. Gangadharan and Fabrizio. The Committee on DEI is working to advance diversity and inclusion through initiatives such as engaging medical students from groups underrepresented in medicine, instituting new policies related to trainee and faculty recruitment, and developing curriculum for implicit bias training. The Committee on DEI is constantly working to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion within the department and has made measurable progress on several initiatives. Recruitment efforts specifically targeting URIM medical students interested in surgical residency. Another successful initiative involved instituting a policy for faculty search committees in the Department of Surgery to ensure that potential recruits are specifically evaluated for their past and ongoing commitment to promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion. And with that, congratulations, Dr. Sidhu Gangadharan and Dr. Anne Fabrizio. And we're going to start with Dr. Gangadharan.
Actually, I'm going to take a chair's prerogative and introduce our co-chairs, but I promise to be very brief. I do want to thank Dean Joan Reed, the leaders at Harvard Medical School, and to just emphasize what a privilege it is to be in the midst of so many amazing, awesome, and inspiring leaders in our Harvard ecosystem. An important leader in our department was Dr. William Silent, who was the first Dean of Diversity at Harvard Medical School. And I think he'd be pleased that we were here today. But as Dr. John Critchlow, who's sitting beside my shoulder and was one of Dr. Silent's disciples, would note, Dr. Silent was always dissatisfied with the status quo, and he would point out today the gap between where we are and where we need to be. It's my role as chair to do everything I can to support brilliant, amazing, inspiring, energetic, visionary residents, leaders, junior faculty, and get out of their way and not mess things up. And so with that, I'll turn the podium over to the two co-chairs of our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, Dr. Sidhu Gangadharan, Chief of Thoracic Surgery at BIDMC, and Dr. Anne Fabrizio, the Division of Colorectal Surgery.
Thank you, Elliot. So I just want to acknowledge both my parents for this. This is a really, to come as a first generation doctor and think about where my parents started. It's a really special thing to be part of a team that's recognized in this way. One of the things that I tell all the students that I interview for a residency position is that one of the things I love about this department is that I get to be the same person at work that I am at home. And that is not an accident of the environment. That takes a culture that we're all working towards. And I think if there was a phrase that we used on the committee on diversity, equity, inclusion this past year, is that we are trying. You know, we're not there yet, but we are trying. And it's been a real privilege to be part of this committee and part of this department. We have 20 members strong on the committee that are all dedicated. They've rolled up their sleeves and they're getting things done in very tangible ways to make this place and this department a better place. So thank you. And I'll turn it over to Anne.
Not too much to add, but it's just a privilege to be part of the committee and work with people who are passionate about the same issues and have the opportunity to make as much progress and try to be better and to be the best we can be. So this award is an honor to recognize those efforts, and we'll hopefully continue to make more progress in that aspect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations to both of you and to the entire Department of Surgery. Our first recipient for the 2021 Sharon P. Claiborne Staff Diversity Award is Dr. James Jim Gould. Jim Gould is Director of the Office of Postdoctoral Programs and Services at Harvard Medical School. And he's been creative in finding collaborative ways to recruit and retain postdocs from underrepresented backgrounds, in addition to implementing a very successful new recruitment program. Over the past several years, he's helped to put in place meetings for graduate students from underrepresented backgrounds who are also involved in the New England Science Symposium, connecting these students to the Harvard Medical School quad faculty and carefully matching their scientific interests with consideration of possible future postdoc opportunities. Jim Gould, congratulations.
Thank you very much, Dean Reed. I'm glad I can call you Joan as a friend and colleague. I'm honored to do that. And thank you for the selection committee as part of the program. My being here today demonstrates, just the power of saying yes and asking, how can I help? I'm honored to receive the Sharon P. Claiborne Staff Diversity Award for my work, as you stated, on the postdoc recruitment program. There is still so much more work to do, but this effort was aimed at diversifying the postdoc applicant and recruitment pool at the medical school and dental schools. In our first attempt, our program led to the successful recruitment of 4 new postdocs, which adds already to our diversity of postdoctoral fellows across the quad and HMS. It wasn't just me, it took a whole team, a whole village to do this work. And I'm just going to be able to name just a few. I would like to thank my family, my wife Heidi and my daughter Lucy. Lynn, Fulton John, and Michaela Talley were my partners in crime in doing this program. The 3 of us worked for 2 months straight, trying to get this to go well. I'd like to thank Pinar Kalichi-Kret, as well as Ying Wang in the DICP office for their support. My boss and mentor, David Golan, for his support and trust in running this program to how I saw fit. And I would also like to thank all of the applicants to the program and all the participants in the future. So thank you very much. I'm honored.
Dr. Gould, congratulations. And I too am happy to be able to call you my friend. Our next recipients of the 2021 Sharon P. Claiborne Staff Diversity Award are a team, Carrie Hannibal and Jillian Jawahir. Ms. Carrie Hannibal is Senior Administrator in the Office of Scholarly Engagement Program, and Ms. Jillian Jawahir is Educational Quality Improvement Coordinator at Harvard Medical School. Both were appointed to serve as staff representatives on the Anti-Racism Task Force in the Program in Medical Education. They also developed a presentation and organized the program for the annual PME staff retreat in October of 2020. This program included a survey of staff and compiling of resources for staff development. Both Ms. Hannibal and Ms. Jawahir have enthusiastically dedicated time and effort to DEI and anti-racism issues related to PME staff, faculty, and students. In addition to serving on the task force, both are continuing to plan additional sessions for staff. Congratulations, and I'll ask Ms. Carrie Hannibal to give her remarks first, followed by Ms. Jillian Jawahir, please.
Hi, thank you, Dean Reed, and those who nominated Jillian and I for this award. I really appreciate the space that's been created at HMS to talk about racism, even when it's uncomfortable. I was thrilled when we were asked to kind of organize a presentation and start the conversation with our PME staff on ways that we can improve our anti-racism efforts at HMS. And, we can only do this anti-racism work in community with each other to create this better future for everybody who works here. And I really look forward to continuing working with Jillian and our work to honor and celebrate the diversity at HMS. So thank you very much for this award.
Hi, everyone. I second everything that Kari just said. It's been an honor working with Kari. Thank you, Dean Reed and the selection committee, and everyone that nominated me within the PME. I'm very honored for the opportunity to actively join this effort on anti-racism and to work towards creating and maintaining an inclusive workplace environment within the PME and HMS on a whole. Also, thank you to my family, especially my parents and my husband, who's recording me right now, for just keeping me focused and driven within these tough times. So thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations to both of you. It's been our honor to recognize these outstanding individuals and to pay tribute to their work. Through their vision and leadership, they've encouraged inclusion, changed the culture, and helped set the tone for future efforts that support diversity. This is not an easy task, but they've shown us that through creativity, innovation, and commitment and time, we can create a culture that is respectful and welcoming of diversity and inclusion. We can accomplish so much when we recognize that we are better together. Thank you to all of this year's recipients. Thank you to Dean Daly, and thank you, Dr. Charleston, for your presentation. We're living in a very, very challenging time, a constantly changing time. And it's important that in the face of this pandemic, in the face of the blatant racism and violence and divisiveness that we're seeing across our country, we do not lose sight of our dedication to advancing science and education and clinical care. And know that we do this in an environment and a society that is rapidly changing, and that we can be a part of changing it in a direction that moves towards equity and justice. We must prepare a workforce that represents and is sensitive to and responsive to and serving of all members of our community. It's equally important that diversity is not just, for us to understand that diversity is not just about race or ethnicity or gender or sexual orientation or language or ability or disability, but all of these things. It's about all of us in one way or another. It's about the richness that diversity contributes to the strength of our community, to our mission. It's one of our core values. So thank you for your work. Thank you for all that you do, have done, and will continue to do to move Harvard in a positive direction. And at this time, I'd like to ask all of our award recipients to hold up your trophy for a screenshot. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you all so very much. Thank you for being here today. For the family members and friends and colleagues who've joined us, thank you for being here to join us in this celebration of excellence at Harvard Medical School, because that's what these individuals stand for. Be safe. And again, thank you.